Hi, my name is Alan, and we're from ColDesi, and we're going to talk about the Avance Multihead. And today we're going to talk about how to set needle depths. How far that needle goes down on a stroke and how far it returns back up is important if you ever change out a needle bar because of a damage, or if after you've at the end of every year of maintenance, you'll want to go ahead and check the depth of the needle bar. The tools you're going to want to need to set needle depths is, number one, you need a small straight screwdriver. That's just in case we got to remove the needle. You need a Phillips head screwdriver, 6mm Allen wrench, 3mm Allen wrench, your offset screwdriver, and if you have one, a needle depth gauge. It makes it so much easier to set your needle depths. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to remove this needle plate, and for that you want to use your offset screwdriver. Next thing you want to do is remove your bobbin, and you should be removing this quite frequently to get all the dust out of it. You can see how much dust builds up in there. The next step we want to do is we want to remove this cover plate and the cover plate that covers your start and stop when you're working on head number one. As you work down the multi-head, you want to remove these covers as you go down. So for this, we'll just remove these two Phillips screws. It's a good idea to keep all your screws together with the parts that they go to. And then this cover plate just slides right off. And I'll just stick it right back here. Okay. The next step we're going to do is we're going to remove this cover plate. Just slides right off and to the left. The next step I like to do is I like to grab all my threads, because one thing I don't like to do is have to re-thread my machine all the way up, especially when I'm dealing with a multi-head machine like this one. That's 90 needles I got to thread up. So I grab all the thread just from the presser foot. Make sure you have a nice long trail of thread here, because we're going to be shifting things around, and you want to tie it off. I'm just going to tie a slip knot. And now what we want to do is we want to remove this assembly right here. Two Phillips screws, one right here and one on the other end. These are going to be longer than the ones that you took off on the cover over here. We'll just let this hang down just like this. The next thing is this cover plate is just going to slide off, and we're going to move it to the left a little bit. There we go. I'm just going to let it hang right there, because we're going to work on needle number one. Now I want you to notice there's two parts on this needle bar that set the needle depth as well as the needle height. You can see right here, we'll get a better angle. This bracket right here sets how far that needle goes down. That needle cannot go any further down than this felt pad. And this bracket up here sets how far that needle comes up. That needle does not come all the way up its entire length. Okay, you can see how far away it is from the cap here on the tension base. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn off our machine now. The next step we want to do is we want to come to the left-hand side of the machine where your main shaft degree wheel is, and it requires a 6mm Allen wrench to turn. Now in the left window you can see that's our degree angles, okay? The start point is always 100 degrees. We want to set this eventually to 172 degrees, which is the lowest dead point that needle will take before it starts to come back up. Now when you're turning this, you always want to go towards the higher numbers. If you can see, I'm going to go towards 110, okay, and on through. If I go the other way, I unscrew this Allen bolt from the degree wheel, and we don't want to do that, obviously. Now to get the needle bar to come down, I'm going to have to rotate this from 100 degrees to 100 degrees, one whole revolution, and then go back around. The needle will start coming down. and we'll stop it at 172. So I'll go to from 100. Now you just heard the needles engage. Now it's at 100. Now we're going to bring it all the way around to 172 degrees. Right about there. And now we're ready to set our needle depth. You can see now our needle bar is down. And I'm going to talk about the gauge, because there's really two ways you can set this needle depth, either with the gauge or with another 6mm Allen wrench. Now, this is not included with your kit. Gauges and other things like that are optional purchases you can buy. Just call us and we'll actually show you where you can get one. The other way you can actually use it is by using a 6mm Allen wrench rested right on the post here. It's a little cumbersome, and that's why I always recommend a gauge. Okay? The gauge, if you look at it closely, has a flat section on it. Most of it's round, but it's flat. It's made that way so you can slide it into where the bobbin goes, flat side up. Now what you want to do with the gauge is you want to slide it in flat side up, right onto the post where your bobbin goes into. And eventually what we're going to do is we want to make sure that the needle, when it's all the way down, scrapes along the barrel of this gauge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen up this lower dead spot here, with your 3mm Allen wrench. It's going to be really tight. By the way, a great T-handled Allen wrench would help you be able to break that loose, no problem. With that loosened, you can see now we can lift this needle bar up and down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this gauge so the round part is now facing up. And I'm going to bring the needle bar down. I'm going to grab it right here. There we go. I'm going to bring it down until you can hear that needle scraping along it. Once I have it, you're going to come up here and tighten up the bracket again. Now it's important that the bracket is not angled outward or towards the back. It'll rub against the back facing of the frame, or it's going to, when it comes forward, it's going to rub against the front cover. So you want to make sure it's perfectly straight, just like that. Now what we want to do, we want to take our main shaft to 306 degrees, which is the very upstroke of that needle. So again, with our 6mm Allen wrench, we're actually going to turn this again towards the higher numbers, and we're going to set it right to 360 degrees. That's your 0 degree mark. And now we can set our upstroke, our upper dead. The upper dead is how far that needle comes up. It's very important that this is set correctly. 1/2 millimeter out or more, what will happen is the needle bar, when you sew, will not catch the reciprocator in the back here. So the needle bar will do something like it'll come down and pop right back up. It won't come down full stroke. So what we do, we loosen up this top Allen screw, which is our upper dead, again with a 3mm. By the way, you never want to remove these screws. They're very hard to put in. They only need to be loosened. Again, point it straight out, flat, in line with the other one. Lift it up as high as it'll go. Now it may only move a slight little bit, but that's all you need. And then tighten it down. After we set our upper dead, now we come back over here to the main shaft degree wheel, and now we want to set it to 100 degrees, which is the start position. Again, going towards the higher numbers. All right, now that we've finished doing our needle depths and our needle heights, I'm just going to go back over here and make sure these are tight one more time. You'll see that the needle is still part way down. We're going to take care of that. What I do want to do is now take my cover, rest it in the front here because we're going to color change. our little cover here, you're going to want to hold on to this. And you can see I turned my machine on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to color change the needle number 2. That needle will disengage from the reciprocator and pop back up. Just like that. And I'm going to set this magnetic cover back on. After we put the cover on, now we want to put the cover plates back in place and our lower take-up lever mounting base on. Now you want to untangle your threads here because you move this over, some of these threads are going to be wrapped around here. Just pull them out into the front. And I kind of like grab the threads that I tied off, hold tension to them, just like this. Not a lot, just a little bit. And then I could slide this plate right up. You want to make sure that all the threads are out in front of this plate, not behind it. You're going to slide this up. And you see you have 2 holes here. It goes into you want to line up the holes for this take-up lever base to the lower hole. And you just want to hold it there. Just set your screw. And then we'll set the other side. Having 2 people would be an advantage, but if you're working by yourself, just put pressure on this take-up lever backwards while you're mounting these screws. Once the screws have started, I'm now going to hold it up by holding tension on the thread. And then tighten these screws. Again, now's a good time to look at your threads, make sure none of these threads are trapped behind this. That's an immediate thread break when you start sewing. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to take our faceplate, slide it right on. You see the narrow gap here? Right in here, you want to make sure that the plate kind of goes up into there. Keep it hard and flat against the needle bar. Slide it right into place. There's a magnet that'll hold that in place. Now what I'll do is I'll take all these threads and put them up in my hole back spring. And take our scissors. Now we're going to test that our settings are correct. A couple things to be watchful for. When we do a thread trim, and that's how we're tested, we want to see that needle bar makes a full stroke down and up. Okay, if it's limping, it's coming down part way and popping back up, then that would mean that the upper dead stop is not set correctly. And we'll need to take our machine back to 360 degrees and loosen it up and pop it up a little bit more. Okay. But we should see a full needle stroke. So I'll go ahead and start a thread trim. And you can see our needle worked perfectly well. Next step is to put this cover plate on the right hand side of the needle of head number 1. And these were small Phillips screws that you use for this. Alright, so now we can put our bobbin back on. And now we want to put our needle plate on. So I'm going to set the needle plate right in its spot. I'm going to start my screws, but I'm not going to tighten them because I got to make sure that the whole of this needle plate lines up dead center with my needle. Before you tighten these screws, you want to have either another partner of yours turning the main shaft wheel around to start to bring this needle down. Again, you want to make sure that when he's turning that with a 6mm Allen wrench, he's going towards the higher numbers. If you don't have another partner to help you with, then go over to the other side and start to turn it. And once you go around one whole revolution, that needle will start to come down. You want to stop it right when the needle starts to come close to that needle plate, so you have time to position this needle plate so it's centered with the needle, and then tighten it up. So Bernardo, if you could start turning that. gauge. Now it's going to start coming down. Go ahead, keep coming. Right there, that's good. So now what we did, and that degree is 120 degrees. And if you grab the presser foot up here and lift up, you can see how your position is on that needle plate. You want to make sure that needle's dead center in that hole. Once you have that, grab your offset screwdriver and start to tighten up these screws. Okay, you see the needle bar is still down. One little thing you can do on your control panel, you can actually just touch the M origin button, and you see it says main motor to 100 degrees. Just hit the enter button, and the needle bar will come right back up for you. It's important to periodically check the depth of your needle bars over time as your machine operates and goes through harder surfaces like car hard material, denim material. You do start to change the depth, how that needle goes down over time. So once every year, it's a good idea to go through your needles, all of them, and check and adjust your needle depth. That little bit means a lot in sewability, quality of sewing, as well as the machine's functionality. And it's another good idea to help yourself by once a month removing this faceplate and oiling the entire length of your needle bars.